Hello, everybody, and thank you for stopping in today. We're going to get started in about 1 minute. Information for everyone. And of course, we are here to answer your questions. So please, if you do have a question, you can put it in the chat. The chat for the office hours is open in the Discord. And of course, you can just raise your hand in Discord, and we'd love to hear from you on the stage. The announcement. So, if you would like to get more involved, as always, we are hiring. Not only are we hiring, we are hiring gangbusters. So, if you can please see the jobs board on the subspace.network webpage, if you think that there's a fit. Of course, we're also looking for community moderators. We're looking for translators, ambassadors, which we're going to hear more about in a second. So, there are many ways to get involved. And of course, you can reach out to us on the forum or in Discord if you have any questions. And so far, just to give an update, since we had the last office hours, which was just 2 weeks ago, we have hired 5 full-time people since then. We've also added a part-time person. So we are very happy to have all the new people aboard, and they're in various departments of the team. So it's been some great additions, and we look forward to having them come in. Um, Before we get to the opening comments, again, just to reiterate that we're going to have everyone raise their hand as Cervantes 87 has. So before we jump in, Wei, is that okay if we just take a question first? Looks like we have two. We have some announcements we want to get to.
Definitely. I mean, this office hour is all about the community.
Yeah,
so, that's always
exactly.
the priority.
I agree. Okay, so Cervantes 87, I've invited you to the stage. If you would like to go ahead and accept that, we would love to hear from you. While he's getting ready, perhaps until he sees the invite, we can keep moving along. I had mentioned the ambassador program, and we have some updates. Diana is on the stage with us, and she is going to tell us what's going on. Diana, hello.
Hi, Todd. Hi, Wei. Thank you for having me today at this office hours. So we have some exciting news about the ambassador program. First, we graduated the cohort we selected in July. The selection process was really competitive, as you may remember. We received over 1,600 applications back then, and we can now proudly announce that 17 wonderful ambassadors successfully passed the apprenticeship period and have joined the program. So shout out to the new ambassadors. And yeah, I'm sure that community knows them very well. They are all very active in the chats. They are all really supportive. So the names of all ambassadors are available in the ambassador workplace, which is open to all community members. And the second big news that we have today is that we are reopening our selection process. So you're the first to know that we have the form open today. So expect the announcement with the links later today. Ideally, we would like to select about 50 apprentice ambassador this time. And as I said before, we'll open the selection form later today, and it will be the usual questions about your background, about your skill set, And if you're contributing by helping other in our support channels, if you're a translator or content creator, that will be a huge plus. So please mention that in your application. And the usual process is that the next step after the applications will be an interview. And if you nail the interview, will be an apprentice ambassador. And each apprentice ambassador will have a mentor, educational plan, an opportunity to become an ambassador or even lead ambassador later. So yeah, we'd love to see your applications, and please don't hesitate to send your contributions, everything that you have done for our community. Please be proud, and yeah, we'd love to see your applications today later. Thank you.
That's great, Diana. Thank you. And again, we definitely want to reiterate our thanks to everyone, not just who's here, but who's participated in the Gemini testnet. It's been a great success. Way's going to talk about that for a little while. And we're just super happy to have everybody here. Before I'd mentioned we added some team members. If anybody's here, I just want to give a quick shout out to Natasha, Anastasia, Parth, Ebony, and Jeremy, Ryan, who's also returning full time. We welcome you. If you're here, thank you for stopping by. And with that, Wei, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. But just to reiterate, Wei, you've obviously done quite a bit of office hours. This actually falls under your purview on the team. So what exactly is your role here at Subspace?
Well, it's always nice to be back, and I love seeing our office hours. I guess it's like one of the best places that we get to engage with our community. So yeah, thank you all for joining. So I guess like for the people that don't know me yet, my name is Wei Yu. Wei for simplicity. I'm currently the CMO at Subspace Labs. I've been part of the team for probably around 6 months at this point. And before that, I was actually leading growth at Dapper Labs. You might quite a few, lessons on how to bootstrap a global community, but also what truly matters, right, when it comes to community growth and engagement. And Subspace actually, before I joined, I was very surprised by the already active community foundation that we had, but also how community centric the whole team was, and how open permissionless the overall project was. So I was very stoked for sure to join.
Yeah, Wei, you're clearly super experienced, and we are very lucky to have you. So thank you again for taking the time to come in here. And with that, one of the things that Wei has been instrumental in introducing here has been the Gemini testnet. He and our co-founder Nazar have worked tirelessly along with the entire team on getting this out there. As you all know, you see them, they're active in the chats, but even more so on the back end. So with that, Wei, you want to go ahead and talk about the testnet, and we're going to talk about where we are with Gemini and kind of what's been happening. And also there was a big announcement, I believe, that we had to make for everyone. So why don't you take it away?
Happy to. As you mentioned earlier, Todd, has been approximately 2 weeks since we had the last office hours when we actually kicked off the Gemini 2 testnet at that time. And it's amazing to see actually how much happened in just 2 weeks. As many of you might have seen, we actually crossed the milestone 1 of Gemini 2 overall process. With the Gemini 1 meant we had actually over 25,000 nodes, right? Concurrent nodes run by the community, along with the total amount of space pledged and the qualified unique reward addresses that all met or exceeded the milestone 1 requirement. Just to reiterate, when we launched Gemini 2, we actually allocated 0.5% of the total token supply, Subspace and mainnet launch to this phase. When you look from the big picture, right, from let's say fast forward, 5 years or 10 years into the future, 0.5% of the total supply actually is quite significant, right? And this comes from someone that has managed layer 1 blockchain from testnet to actual mainnet launch, and of course subsequent growth, right? So that was somewhat already a generous allocation, and we have created this incentive model that will actually, hopefully like foster community collaboration and working together in order to unlock, the various milestones that we have set. And it was like, pretty, I guess, humbling to see like, at one point we had nearly 27,000 nodes that was actually recorded a few times on the telemetry within just, the past 2 weeks. So, first of all, thank you all, for contributing and participating, and again, for being like arduous supporters of, this project that's growing steadily. But at the same time, like, we did notice like, some minor loopholes that some community like or you can say more opportunistic farmers were taken advantage of, which was like what some of the community member called reward address stacking, or some other called like reward address rotation, which in short meant like they will run the node up to, let's say, the minimum balance requirement, right, to qualify for the reward, and then possibly resetting and then rotating a reward address. Based on some on-chain data analysis, that actually was affecting only a subset of nodes or like farmers, but at the same time, like that dented the morale, right? Like for the honest farmers, quite a bit. And there was like one lingering question, right, out of it, which is why should an honest farmer keep the node up and running way beyond the minimum requirement if there was like a smaller group that is taking advantage of that and just like maximizing the short-term reward. And that's the rationale why we introduced the second reward, surprise reward, just yesterday. Which again, instead of changing the incentive model or like shifting the allocation midway, we wanted to stay true to our commitment. So we kept the 0.5% of the total allocation as we promised, but we decided to even double down, right, and allocated additional 0.5% of the total supply as a second reward pool. And that made a total of like up to 1% of the total allocation for this Gemini 2 phase, which is probably one of the most generous incentivized testnet reward that I've seen out there. And to probably like give a very quick example of what the scale means, right? Like everybody knows, like for example, Vitalik was a big holder of ETH, right, since he was the founder. But it is estimated that his current holding is less than 1% of the entire Ethereum, right, like supply. So when we talk about 1%, actually it's pretty big, for the I guess incentive reward phase standpoint. But we felt like was justified because it was almost like a token of gratitude and the reward for the strong community and farmers who follow and supported us along the way, and who have been also running the nodes to clear in order to qualify, which is like each farmer needs to have at least 3 TSSC, which is like testnet subspace credit in their wallet. And the rationale behind that is that we want to reward farmers who have been running their nodes continuously instead of rotating and clearing just the baseline of 0.5 TSSC based on the previous incentive model. So in summary, if you have been running your node since day one, you probably should have cleared that requirement long ago. On average, probably you should be even at like 7 or 10 TSSC at this point. And the true incentive model that we have launched, you can say pool 1 and pool 2, right? If you have a more than 3 TSSC token balance in your wallet, it means you qualify for both. The reward pool 1, where everybody will get an equal amount of token allocation based on the milestone unlocked. We already unlocked milestone 1, and we're working hard with everyone to unlock the milestone 2 ideally. And then the second pool, which is will be distributed proportionally to all the token farmed across this testnet. So that the longer you keep your node up and running, the more ideally like Subspace credits you will farm, and then the higher allocation you should get out of that 0.5%. So once again, this was not an easy decision, but it was made, to thank every community member that has been following us along all this time, and we wouldn't be here without you. So I feel like that was one of the hardest but also easiest decision we had to make, regarding the community, kind of a reward. But yeah, I guess that's the more high level summary of the reward. And then they added the reward structure will not change. I guess the length of Gemini 2 testnet. We previously announced it will last around 30 days, plus or minus maybe like a few days or a week, depending on how the state will be right toward the end of that. But yeah, will remain pretty much the same, I guess, lengthwise. And to give everybody a bit context, we are 2 weeks in Gemini testnet, and 2. So which means we have imagine 15 to 20 days left approximately, which is way more than enough for anyone to join even today or next week, and clear that 3 credits requirement if they kept the node running and online. So there should be plenty of time for a new wave of farmers to join us. So please, go out, invite your friends, family members, or spread the word across different communities, because they will be helping us all to also unlock the upcoming milestones.
Yeah, that's great, Wei. Thank you. And that stays true to the original vision that the token supply, over half, is going to be owned and distributed as rewards to farmers. So the intent has always been that Subspace is going to be a community-owned project. And this stays true to that vision. And Wei, just to clarify what you were saying for people that may have joined in as you were speaking. So running multiple farmers is okay. All that we've done is kind of leveled the playing field to make it enticing for people to run their farmer throughout the duration versus farming one TSSC and then dropping off. Isn't that right?
That's correct. So running multiple distinct farmers has always been allowed. And we try to be pretty open-minded in that respect, in the sense the network is permissionless from day one, even during the incentivized testnet. So on that, in that regard, running multiple farmers actually does contribute to the overall testing and the security level of Subspace. So that is fine. I guess one caveat is when someone actually does the opposite, trying to run a single farmer and rotate addresses right with that single farmer, which is just opportunistic, I guess, strategy, because that single farmer does not contribute more security, right, as they rotate reward addresses. But now, yes, if someone has been running multiple farmers and have been resetting their nodes when they clear 0.5 TSSC, now they have actually a stronger rationale to just keep their nodes running. Because before, right, the issue with I guess the incentive model, the initial one was that there was no opportunity cost, because once you reach the minimum balance, there was no additional benefits on every or marginal benefits, right, on the additional credit that you farm. While now, actually, there's an opportunity cost, because if you try to reset your farm and resync again, right, you actually are losing half a day that you could spend farming additional credits to get yourself ahead of the game. And and there's also a risk, okay, you need to spend probably half a week to a week to then get to the minimum balance to qualify again for the new reward address. So the burden actually is much higher, for I guess people that have been stacking addresses or rotating in that sense.
Yeah, I know a tremendous amount of thought has been put into this to ensure that we are rewarding the core community, many of which are here. These are the core people who I see a lot of the familiar names here in the Discord, the people that are active in the chat, and I know they're running farms, and that's great information they have.
Yeah. In this, I would say, like, in this crypto industry, right? Like, it's very hard to have, like, preset expectation, just because everything we're building is so new and untested. But having the experience from Gemini 1, we definitely had some ideal goals, right? Like, that we wanted to achieve. One of them was the farmer experience, and I feel like we all, I guess, have seen, like, why Gemini 1 was somewhat successful. People bumped into many issues, errors, and also syncing delays, right? That could have been, like, much better, and that's what we wanted to address for Gemini 2, and see, like, how much improvement we could deploy at the same time, like, at a much larger scale that we have never tested before. So on that aspect, we just had a sync actually with some of the lead community members, especially Mike, who was leading the support functional area. We have all seen, like, a drastic improvement. Like, it's almost become like somewhat seamless experience for people, who had somewhat familiarity with what meant running a node or farming. Observing Discord, actually, I could see, like, a drastic improvement, right, in the overall user or farmer experience. So that has been very successful, I should say, and a lot of credit goes to the entire, like, product and engineering team, right, at Subspace Labs. Our secondary goal was actually to see, like, how far we could push the network in terms of, like, consensus participation and global distribution. In that regard, like, why, of course, we could always hope for bigger numbers and more community. The momentum that we gain in just 2 weeks, right? We by surpassing all previous records, whether it's, like, stress test, Gemini 1, or, like, any other stage before this, we were pretty happy with that. In the sense, like, we were nearly at the peak, or, like, nearly at 30,000 nodes. Concurrent nodes. So of course, there's a hope that in the next 2 weeks or so we can clear milestone 2, because that will unlock actually additional reward for the community, and I'll be very actually happy if that happened, which would be like a 50,000 nodes, right? And that would be actually a pretty happy milestone for my Gemini 2.
Yeah, very ambitious goals, but well on track, Wei. Done a great job so far, the whole team. And yes, shout out to all the ambassadors and community members again, many of whom I see who are joining us today. And one of the things that you just mentioned is, looking at the number of nodes and where people can go to get information. One thing that we have had a little bit of an issue with in the past, and it tends to happen, I think, when everybody's trying to sync at once, is that sometimes telemetry goes down for a little while. And people want to be able to check their wallet, check their network activity. Maybe you can just talk about the telemetry aspect a little bit, and then some of the alternatives that people can use if that happens.
Sorry, I wasn't mute. Yes. Telemetry, has been, I guess, a bit unstable for Gemini 2, primarily because it was built not with the scale, not with our current scale in mind, right? Initially, if I'm not wrong, was built by the Dosama ecosystem to monitor like Substrate, nodes. And if you go to the, I think, Polkadot telemetry, most of the chains or ecosystem have around, like 1,000, maybe 2 or 3,000 nodes, right? And we are talking about, like 20, 30,000 nodes, right? Sending I guess signals all concurrently at the same time. So unfortunately, that's what caused the telemetry to sometimes display, like wrong numbers, or like reset itself, so starting the calculation or count again in the past. And also that's the same reason why we had to disable, unfortunately, the list of all the nodes and the map, like geographic distribution map, which I think I loved a lot. Like every time I look at the map, it just gave me this gratification of how distributed and global our community is, and where all the nodes are from. And what we had almost every continent at this point, I think, except for the I guess South and North Pole. But yeah, unfortunately now we had to disable that and almost like retool the telemetry to handle like better at this new scale that we are facing. Right now is a bit more stable, but it's still work in progress, right? The product team is actually working tirelessly behind the scene to make that happen. So on that front, like in terms like node, I think that the node count should be a bit more stable now. It's not 100% reflecting the full state of the network, because we realize like some nodes because everything is community first, that we build a release, which means like even the telemetry, any node participant can disable or farmer can disable the telemetry. And also we have been noticing like some firewalls, right, might block the telemetry. So take it with a pinch of salt, but the count should be somewhat stable at this stage. And then of course you can use Subscan to monitor the other two requirements, right, which is a qualified reward address and total space pledge to double check.
Yeah, that's great. And Subscan, whose name has become synonymous in Substrate with block explorers, we're glad to be working with them to further our development on that front. And then I guess stepping back way to before, you were talking about rewards. And one of the questions that I've seen pop up is when determining the total token amount for that additional 0.5% of the reward pool, will that be in consideration of the circulating supply, or is that based on the total token amount? I think you're
no. If you consider like what is the denominator that you should divide, right? Like the second reward pool of 0.5%. That denominator should be only the circulating supply. And I mean, the terminology is a bit, I guess, like not 100% accurate, because during incentivized testnet, no balance is transferable. So none of that is truly circulating. But I feel like Subscan actually categorize that every credit farm during Gemini 2 is considered circulating, to distinguish from the more locked up amount that we have as a part of the network, I guess, bootstrapping phase. So currently, if I go to Subscan, it seems they are around like 200,000 circulating supply. So that would be somewhat the reference number instead of the 8 million, right? You can just neglect those. Those are some placeholders for now. But at the same time, like I want to add a clarification. Like those 200 something K total credits is not like reflective of the actual number that we will use, because we will only consider wallets that have at least 3 TSSC credits by the end of Gemini 2, which means like if you have like 100,000 wallets, for example, with only 1 credit, then those will actually be not considered, right? Like that will be actually removed from the calculation for the second reward pool distribution. So you can use that number as a relative reference, but don't take it at the face value. And I will paste on the office hour chat the link to Subscan section that you can see those numbers, just so you have I guess idea if you're curious.
Yeah, thanks to Big Jim and Alphanomicon. I see they're putting some links out there as well. Our ambassador team has been posting these as we go, so that's very helpful. So then, just to clarify, Wei, one of the more specific points is somebody listed, for example, if you have 2 wallets, one with 3 TSSC and one wallet that has 6 TSSC, is the final reward proportional? How is that going to work in terms of distribution?
So for this phase, we try to not overcomplicate things too much because we already have 2 reward pools, right? So we want to keep as simple as possible. The short answer is if someone had 2 reward address with 3 credits each, and another person had 1 reward address with 6 credits, they will be receiving approximately the same distribution from the second pool. If you have 2 nodes running and you are sending those 2 nodes to 2 separate reward address and just keep that running continuously, is fine. You don't need to restart the node and point all them to one single address. Again, there was also another question like, okay, what about people now trying to reach 3 TSSC and then reset the node, right, and start again? One could, but as I mentioned earlier, now the opportunity cost is pretty high because by resetting the node, you actually waste probably like half day to a day to resync and replot, right, based on your bandwidth and hardware setup, and then you will probably spend another half a week to 7 days, right, to reach the 3 credits. The question is like, okay, how many times you can do that versus the opportunity cost of just leaving your node up and running and accumulate credits in the same period. And then if you multiply that by like multiple nodes, that that actually gets harder and more expensive to do so, opportunity cost wise. So I think the summary is probably at this point everybody should be leaving that nodes up and running until the end, just so that they don't miss out, right, on that proportional allocation.
Yeah, that's a very thoughtful response, Wei. Thank you for that. And we still have about 10 minutes left. So if anyone wants to put any questions in, they can go ahead. But I'll go ahead because I have a bunch of questions based on the things that I've been seeing. So looking forward, I guess, you had mentioned, we're about 2 weeks in to this phase of Gemini. And then we will, go down after another 2 weeks or so, and we'll tell people that the testnet period has ended at least. And then we'll start to look forward to the next evolution of the testnet. And what is that going to look like, and approximately when?
And with one click, I can see my balance actually every day, right, easily, instead of going to another platform or portal to check. I want also to give a shout out to the Sub Wallet team. They've been amazing, and actually they've been developing super fast and has been super active in our community.
Absolutely. Yeah. And single chain mode, I believe, is available now as well in Sub Wallet. So you can really isolate it down to just what's happening on the Subspace network. So,
yeah.
Okay, great. So back to what we were saying before, I guess, looking forward, what you see for the future, the next iteration of Gemini, maybe what we can expect, how many testnets do you think there will be, something like that?
So I think we always try to prepare for it, right? Think about every scenario that could happen, walk around them, create a contingency plan, but also set the expectation, right, of what each stage might be. And every time we go through the stage, actually we get a huge load of new lessons learned. And also an expected scenario might happen, and usually we try not to rush it, and just head to the next phase. But we try to actually be quite deliberate and take our time to absorb all the lessons learned, and also of course also take the time to release all the features or improvements that we can, right, before the next phase. So I would say during this phase, we definitely learn a lot about community coordination, incentive model alignment, but also the fact it's not that fast to attract and then educate, right, a new batch of farmers. It takes a bit more time compared to just token holders. So then it means we might need to also think about a whole education process and support model, right, that we can roll out for the new community members. So all those considered, I feel like the key priority for the next phase is definitely like applying all the lessons learned and all the feedback we have received from the community. More concretely, there'll be some definitely a significant technical improvements for Gemini 2 ideally. I don't want to speak on behalf of the engineering team, but personally, I'll be very excited if the DSN actually gets at least the V1 of DSN gets released by Gemini 3, which means like if that happens, there's not much need for the archival storage node anymore. People can start running a full node and don't have to keep the whole history, right? So I think that's going to be super exciting because it lowers the barrier to entry further and will open up the door to even less, I guess, technical savvy or the broader audience, right, to join us. In terms ecosystem, community growth, and the node size amount, I don't want to put out a massive number just for the sake of it, but seeing the trend and also engagement and growth so far, it will be I guess somewhat interesting to plan to double the size of our community and farmers by Gemini 3 or by the end of Gemini 3, of course. But at the same time, means there's a lot of work that we all need to do from both the core team as well as the community and ambassadors. And I feel like the new batch of new cohort, right, that we are opening up, that Diana just mentioned, will definitely help us, right? Because with that cohort, we will double, or actually more than double our ambassador size, and that means there will be a lot more initiatives that we can tackle in conjunction with them. And timeline-wise, we haven't really set a final date yet for Gemini 3 because we want to assess and do things right. But the initial sentiment was late Q4, this year, or if there are major delays, maybe early Q1. But so far, I think the team is feeling pretty good about that. And then, of course, after Gemini 3, there's the community token offering that is likely to happen. And but again, it's hard to make hard promises in crypto. And one of the I guess key point about the community token offering is the idea the majority, if not all, of the allocation will be kind of dedicated to existing farmers, which means all farmers and community members, right, joining right now, farming during the incentivized testnet has a benefit you get actually reward
distributed to the farmers. So right now they have TSSC, right? They have the testnet token. How is that going to translate into a mainnet token? What's the process going to look like there? I don't know if that's been ironed out yet, but I think it's a fair question for Zornox to ask.
Yes. So all TSSC credits farm right now, they have only one purpose, which is a placeholder for the future, I guess, distribution allocation calculation. Which means intrinsically TSSC don't have any value, and I think we have said that many times, but it's always good to reiterate. So the actual distribution will happen at mainnet launch when we'll be using the same reward address of farmers and participants across all those I guess testnet phases, and then we will then distribute the I guess respective token allocation amount based on the different rules of each phase. But yeah, the TSSC in your wallet will not have any value other than accounting or I wouldn't even call it accounting. It's more like a placeholder indication of your participation.
And a few other questions that have popped up here. Zum had asked about the roadmap, which you kind of touched on, Wei. I think that keeping it from like the mile above looking down perspective, we haven't attached specific dates at this point, but as you said, there will be several perhaps iterations of the test net before maybe like a mainnet beta and then a mainnet launch. And in there somewhere maybe the community token sale and the public token sale. In terms of exact dates and timelines, I don't know that we're in a position to commit to that yet. But as Wei, I think as you had said, we're looking at between say Q4, Q1, Q2, sometime in 2023. We're hoping for early 2023. Would that be fair?
Yes, for Gemini 3, late Q4, early Q1, and then depending on the success of the Gemini 3, from both like a technical point of view as well as like the testing scale that we can reach, right? And then that would determine like then the next phase, right? Which very likely is maybe a community token offering, but if we did notice. If we do notice something that we need to test again or improve, then there could be another phase 2 of Gemini 3. I wouldn't exclude that 100%. But after that, sequentially there will be community token offering, and then mainnet beta, and then the final mainnet.
And then Yvonne also asks another question, and I know that a lot of thought has been put into long-term incentivization and so forth, although I do not believe there are any specifics out on this. But the question originally was what percent of the total supply is going to go to farmers? And as we said before, it's going to be over half. This will be a community-owned project owned by the farmers. But then the question was, how long do you think it would take to farm 50% of the tokens? Obviously, with something like Bitcoin, you have a halving that goes on, and this takes us out, I think, over another 100 years or so. Is there any ballpark you can kind of place on that to say how long you think it would take to farm all those tokens? Have we been that specific?
No, I would say we haven't reached that stage of detail yet, and I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing I guess like indication at this point. All I can say is we try to be very thoughtful and deliberate, right, in the incentive structure. So we usually try to be more on the cautious side, right? Because different projects do it differently, and many actually use the token as a lever to get the initial let's say hype and adoption. But then there are like many side effects of that, right? Like accelerating too much in the early stage. So we're trying to be very cautious on that front to ensure like the network is here to stay for decades to come, right? And not just for the first 5 to 10 years until farming is interesting. So that's all I can say at this stage. But hopefully, the way that we've been running all different phases of testnet gives a hint like we try to be very community centric, and definitely the network, the largest chunk of allocation is for the community, but also we don't want to rush things.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, Way, if someone has read the white paper, they would see there is a tremendous amount of thought put into the incentives of Subspace, the farmer's dilemma, not just that, but long-term incentivization and honest farming. So just know that that is something that is under heavy consideration to ensure, as Way had said, that the network is here to stay and that it's going to persevere over time, and then making sure that honest farmers are incentivized to continue running the software. So, but that is a fair question, and I'm glad they asked it. It looks like Alpha has asked a question. I think this may be one for the devs, Way, but he's wondering what phase will the smart contracts expect to be tested in? I don't know that we've gotten that far ahead, but maybe you know something.
Interesting question. I would say some sort of a smart contract will likely be in place by before, of course, like mainnet beta launch. We have a few scaling solutions that we're planning to adopt. which includes like domains and app-specific chains, right? Kind of a solutions. Just because we're seeing the trend going toward that direction, and especially if people are being like observing Cosmos, app-specific chain has been like actually a pretty strong driver for the narrative and adoption, especially now that the DYDX moved from a layer 2 on Ethereum to a more like their own blockchain built on Cosmos SDK, right? But beyond that, probably stay tuned. Actually, we might release a meta paper in the coming month or two that actually will outline some of these like slightly longer term technical implementation roadmap and how everything will come together to again show that why we at the current stage we are so much about network consensus bootstrapping, right? Like storage, via proof of capacity kind of model. Subspace is way more than just a decentralized storage solution. Actually, it's way more. And we have a plan to unify the multi-chain experience, ideally via bridges and like data availability and many other services that we hopefully can share more right in the future.
Yeah, and I would say one of the things that we really emphasize here, if you haven't noticed, is transparency. You have access to all of the Q&A that happens on the Discord, the interaction between our developers and our community and our marketing team, and all of the development videos are posted on YouTube so that you can see what these meetings are like. So we do our best to be completely transparent with everything that's going on. So please know that as we do finalize this information, we'll get it out. But it's better to wait until we have certainty than to speculate on something and then have to retract it later. So we thank you for your patience and for working with us. And it looks like we're getting up toward the end, but one more question to throw at you before we wrap up is this one would really go to you specifically as the CMO. What is Subspace doing to get the word out? What types of initiatives do we have maybe going that you can talk about, if anything, that people may find interesting?
Yeah, I would say like we're definitely doing a multi-pronged approach, right? Like a parallel execution across different like I guess like sectors, but also like channels to get the word out there, but also like a test, right? Like the narrative at a smaller scale first, iterate, and then ideally push across like broader distribution channels. We have done some small scale testing so far. Engaging with like YouTubers across like 5-6 regions, right? And imagine like Russia, Ukraine, Turkey, India, right? Like Vietnam and many others. And then we also have started collaboration with regional collaborators. Recently I did an AMA with like research focused like groups to regional collaborators, right? Whether they are like across CIS regions, Southeast Asia. We have actually an upcoming AMA with Japan. I did a few with Vietnam, and also we are extending collaboration with actually some of the community builders and research teams in China. And then we also recently reached out to our ambassadors, right, from Latin, like Latin America, and then other regions to possibly expand our presence there. So initiative-wise, we have definitely many parallel initiatives happening. The teams are still small, so we're trying not to overextend ourselves, and try to focus more on the quality of collaboration over time. But from I guess request from our side is like we have you all amazing community members, right, who have been in crypto for a while and know probably your region better than any of us here. So if you have any suggestions, great collaborators, key opinion leaders, community builders, or even like any project that you think could be interesting for us to collaborate with, please don't hesitate to send us a DM or share any additional details. We would love, right, to collaborate with any potential candidates across different regions. And then hopefully with the new batch of ambassadors, we can scale up, right, even more what we've been doing so far.
That sounds really exciting, Wei. I'm so glad to be a part of this, and I'm glad that everyone here who's joining us has decided to participate as well. With that, it looks like we're getting toward the end of time. The last question, I think you've already answered, that Yvonne put out here, is how many farmers do we expect after the launch of mainnet? And I think the right answer, Wei, would be, as you said before, without repeating everything you said, is we don't know. We're trying to increase, as you had just mentioned, gradually, because we're approaching this from a qualitative aspect more so than a quantitative aspect. And it really depends on the test nets and the iterations and the timing and the token sales. There's a lot of pieces. So I think saying an exact number would just be speculation at this point. Would you agree, Wei?
Yes, correct. We definitely want to focus on the quality over quantity, because it's not too hard to attract short-term or opportunistic farmers, right? But the question is would they stay around long enough to actually benefit the overall ecosystem? So we have a plan to grow significantly, but yeah, we don't want to put a number out there just for the sake of it. But what we've seen so far is we're probably double the size, right, of farmers at the current stage versus the previous one. So we are, I guess, going along pretty well so far. So likely we want to aim to keep the momentum trend going for sure.
Yeah, keep farming, everyone. That would be the response. That's what I'll give you to take from this. My closing remarks: keep on farming. And again, thank you to the community and everyone for being here today. A huge thank you to you, Wei, for all the great information you shared today. I'm sure everybody appreciates it as much as I do.
Yeah, thank you, Todd, for having me, and thank you everyone again for tuning in and for being great supporters of Subspace Network. We truly appreciate you being here, and for those also watching live stream later, right, who couldn't make it, thanks again. And we definitely have a lot of exciting development ahead of us, and this is just the beginning.
Yeah, we'll be back on office hours again on October 19th. So 2 weeks from today will be the next episode of office hours. So a reminder in the interim, if you have any questions, please post them on forum.subspace.network. You can go to the Discord, the Telegram. Our mods and our ambassadors and our entire team is there to assist you. So thank you again, everyone, for coming, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Have a great day or evening.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.